Hey there, this is Gaurav. Welcome back with a brand new JavaScript course. Learn JavaScript from scratch. So if you want to become a JavaScript developer, then you were at the right place. So in this journey, we will learn a lot of JavaScript concept from the very basics along with practical examples. Alright, so are you ready? Okay, let's jump right in. This is the first video of this series where I will talk about introduction to JavaScript. But before that, I would like to highlight few prerequisites. So personally, I do prefer to learn about history before learning anything. So I want you to do the same. I have created a dedicated video on a brief history of JavaScript. Just go and have a watch. I will give you the link in the description. That's where you will learn how JavaScript came and how it is evolving day by day. Next, I want you to learn about why to learn JavaScript. Definitely, right? You should know what are the scopes that will open for you if you learn JavaScript. So I have also created a dedicated video on that. Please go and have a watch. So these two videos will give you the initial motivation, I would say, in order to start this series. Okay, so now let's start with the first topic, that is introduction to JavaScript. So now, what is JavaScript? So if I ask this question to you, then the first word will come to your mind, that is, it's a programming language, right? So what is programming language? Let's understand that. So if I talk about language, forget about programming language now, just understand about language. Then language is nothing but a way where you can express your opinion, your thought to the other person, I can say, so that other person also will understand what you were saying, right? So that is the purpose of any language. Currently, I am delivering this content in English, right? So that's the purpose of a language that will help you to communicate. So now if I talk about programming language, then here the other person will be computer. How we can communicate with a computer, right? Now, computer has its own language, that is what called binary code, that is 0 and 1, right? Also, it is called as machine code or low level language. Now, can we communicate with this language, that is 0-1, with computer? No, it is not possible. It is a very difficult, right? So that is why we need something called high level language. You can see it will make sense to you. It's in English. Definitely it will make sense to you. So you can work with it, right? So now we need something called compiler or interpreter, which will convert this high level language to low level language. And that's how we can communicate. So here JavaScript is nothing but high level language like other language like C, Java and so on. So once you learn JavaScript, you can communicate with computer. You can do coding, right? The next feature is called lightweight. It means it consumes minimal memory resources when your code is running. And the third point is cross-platform. So your JavaScript code will run on multiple platforms like Windows, Linux and Mac. That's why we call it as cross-platform. And the fourth point is object-oriented. So we have a few OOPS principle, or we can call it as object-oriented principle, like inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation and so on. So if a language will follow those OOPS principle, then we can call that language as object-oriented language, like we have Java, okay? And the fifth point is scripting language. Okay, so scripting language means it's a programming language that is interpreted like PHP and Python. So if I talk about C language, then in C language you are using compiler. That means before your code will get executed, first it will be compiled. It will be converted to low level language, that is your binary code or machine code, and then it will be executed through processor. But if I talk about JavaScript or PHP and Python, they are using something like interpreter where your code will be executed on the fly. Where your code will be converted to machine code while it is running, okay? Not before running. So now if I combine all these features, then we will get the definition of JavaScript. So if anyone will ask you what is JavaScript, please give them this definition. So JavaScript is lightweight, object-oriented, cross-platform scripting programming language. Make sense? And you should know all the terms like what is mean by lightweight, object-oriented, cross-platform, scripting and so on. Now JavaScript is one of the core technology of web development. So we already know about two core technology, right? That is HTML and CSS. So HTML is what is responsible for creating content. Content means like creating header, footer, button, form, all these things, right? And if I talk about CSS, it's all about presentation. I mean, what color you should provide your button, where it should be, I mean, what should be the margin, padding, and all these things. It's all about styling, right? Or presentation. Now we have one more core technology that is called JavaScript, and that is why JavaScript came basically. So initially using HTML and CSS, we can create a static web page, but now because of JavaScript, we can create a dynamic web page. Means, let's say if I click on a button, then what will happen, right? So these dynamic effects will be handled by JavaScript, this language. So here I'm talking about client side, where your JavaScript code will be executed on client side, that is on browser, like Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, and so on. So initially JavaScript was created like in 1995 for client side only. I told you the purpose, right? That for creating a dynamic web page. It can only run in the browser, right? But in modern era, because of Node.js, thanks to Node.js, which came in 2009, we can use this same language, that is JavaScript, in server side as well. It means it can run outside the browser, right? Here Node.js is nothing but JavaScript runtime. So you can see JavaScript can be used in client side as well as in server side. Combining these two we can call as full stack, right? So if you know JavaScript, you can work, I mean, in both the areas like client side and server side. You can work as a full stack developer. So are you ready? So let's start the journey to become a JavaScript developer. Now what developer you want to become, that is up to you. Like as a full stack developer, mobile developer, client side like front end developer, back end in different stack like min stack, man stack, and so on. See you on the next video. Thanks for watching.